skateboarding, riding a normal bicycle, riding a motorcycle, and riding a personal electric vehicle, simple kind of confusing thing that I'm going to try to describe. Basically, countersteering is when you're on your motorcycle, hypothetically, and I've never been on a motorcycle, and skateboards, and normal bicycles. Countersteering is when you go to make a left turn and the thing goes to the right instead. So countersteering is, again, when you're on your motorcycle or your bike and you're going to make a left turn, you go out to make a left turn, and then the thing turns right. It has to do with the fact that it has 2 points of countersteering. Is one of those concepts that is like really important. If you're gonna go and take this thing out every day, you know, it doesn't have any horsepower, but 100 volts is a lot. That has been in the market or is in the market for personal electric vehicles, whether it's a scooter or a hoverboard or a wave board or like a hoverboard or like a. But I think one of the most important things that I want to kind of preach right today is countersteering, because the winds out here in Folsom are like more than 18-mile-an-hour winds. Go to make a right turn, or you go to make a left turn, and instead of a right turn, there's many unpredictable variables there that a lot of people don't really want to find out about. And honestly, I don't really want to find out either. Like, I want to ride these things safely. So that is why steering that differentiates personal electric vehicles from actual flying objects such as drones or helicopters and such, or toy airplanes. You know, they have toy airplanes that fly. But the personal electric vehicle has a difference, and the difference is that it has to go on the road. It's self-balancing, and it feels like it's hovering, but... So as a frequent bike rider, electric bike rider, I go for range tests mostly, and yes, countersteering is a very important. People say that they know it or they understand it, but there's a lot of things to it, and one of the main things is the condition of the road, which is no slip wheel condition. But sometimes it gets really, really cold, and it's like permafrostic weather, and sometimes it gets really, really hot, and it's like 100+ degrees Fahrenheit. So the no slip wheel condition can vary based on like the actual humidity of the air. So the two things about countersteering that really trip me up is the translational velocity and the rotational velocity, because the translational velocity is like what you push out onto the road from the bottom, and the rotational velocity is what the motor actually produces. So between the translational velocity and the rotational velocity, I don't really fully understand the consequence. So in what is considered normal steering, the translational and the rotational velocities are moving in two separate directions. So I'm going to start with the chair. So with the chair, the translational velocity is the velocity of the motor, and the rotational velocity is the pushing back. So there's two translational rotational arrows going back. In order to get the chair to go forward, there's two translational rotational arrows that go back, and there is one that goes forward that actually pushes back, and that's the one that I'm focusing on. That is the translational. So the translational is the one that's forward, and that pushes forward from the waist up. And that one is a little bit more confusing for sure. So within the scope of usage of a normal personal electric bike or a personal electric vehicle, in order to make a right turn, I don't have my electric bike with me, but in order to make a right turn, you have to steer to the right. You have to steer and turn the handlebars to the right. However, when you turn it to the right, the vehicle has to lean in a certain direction. So without a motorcycle or without an electric bike, I just have the EX30, the skateboard, and the chair in the hotel. And I will explain to you that for the counter steering, or for when you're gonna steer a right turn on a motorcycle, the first thing is that it's gonna lean a little bit to the right. Kind of like how with the trucks of the Ace trucks of the skateboard, look. You press on the heels and they lean on the heels. And so if you're gonna make a right turn on a skateboard, the skateboard has to tilt a certain amount at some point. Otherwise, it can't just be totally flat. I mean, it can, but then you have to be going a lot slower. So when you're making a right turn on a personal electric vehicle or a motorcycle, whether it's gas powered or electric, doesn't matter. It could be a Ducati, could be a Harley, whatever. I just ride the Alien Rides ones, or the ones that are custom built for me that I buy from my homies. But you're making a right turn. There's a point in which the front one and the back one are gonna kind of go like that. And that is something that is kind of like a variable with the electric bike that is sketchy. Because when you're turning to the right, what they don't tell you in school, when you're turning to the right, there is a point when it's gonna kind of go like that. And you want it to go like that. So those are important contact points between skateboarding, riding skateboards, and personal electric vehicles. So in order for the motorcycle or the electric bike to make a turn, there has to be a center. So I will use this tissue, this used tissue as a center. So if you want to make a turn, there's always a center point to the turn that is far away from the distance of the vehicle. So when the motorcycle turns to the right, both of the wheels are kind of pushing backwards velocities that don't cancel out perfectly. So on two wheels sometimes it's a little bit more gnarly, but especially on the electric bike. But on the unicycle, usually it's pretty mellow and chill, and on the skateboard it's usually mellow unless you hit a pebble. So there's the turning and the steering, the velocity, the distance, and the center point, and the non-slip conditions. So there's the centripetal force that is produced from the turn and the frictional force. So between the two forces, there's a centripetal force and the frictional force. And those two forces also kind of pull in for the right hand turn. And those are two factors that are important for personal electric vehicle and motorcycle whether it's gas, electric, or oil powered. So between the centripetal force and the no-slip conditions of the road and the balancing of the motorcycle. So at one point during the 45-degree turn, the vehicle becomes unstable. Whether it's a motorcycle, an electric vehicle, or a scooter, there comes a point in the turn when it becomes unstable, no matter what, and that has to do with the combination of the frictional vectors pulling in towards the turn. Yes, there is a point where it becomes unstable. And so the instability is, I guess, can be described as this thing called torque. And torque is kind of like when it's going in a certain direction and it gets windy and then it kind of like unstabilizes. So when the bike kind of starts to torque out of your control, it's best to like slow down and jump off the bike and plug it in, check it, get your tools or something. But between the electric bike and the skateboard, the brakes are important and the lighting is important. And the EUC has really good lighting, but the e-bikes, as much as I love them, sometimes they have problems with the lights after like a few days or something. Like the light mechanism, since the battery is so powerful, sometimes the lighting wiring gets a little bit choppy because it's so fast. So I'm right now riding only the EX30, but I also have a skateboard to kind of represent as a placeholder the electric bike. So there's turning the motorcycle down, and there's leaning it inwards. So like as a skateboard, right, you kind of have to, like when you're going down, when you're going to make a right turn, you kind of eventually have to, as you're slowing down, you have to turn it down and lean it inwards and kind of dismount. And that can also be a little bit sketchy, whether it's a skateboard or a motorcycle or an electric bike, but you have to kind of turn it inwards. So then there's the gravitational force and the normal force that are acting in the motorcycle's normal position. So the most important thing is when adjusting the body position of riding the personal electric vehicle, the most important thing that you need to do is tuck and like bend your knees. And a lot of people, especially in America, are lazy and uncoordinated and fat. You know, we're like the most probably fat and uncoordinated nation in the world. So, you know, we have to factor that in. Americans are fat and uncoordinated. So if you buy one, you have to be really, 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 really careful. Because we are the laziest nation in the world, you know, and it's not fun and it's not funny. And, you know, you get one and you want to go far and you want to go fast and everyone just kind of gets bummed out and charges you for damages and complains. And I don't like it. I don't like it. So when you're on a motorcycle and the handlebars are turning, you really do have to lean and tuck and kind of and bend your knees. And you know, if it's not working out for you, dude, then it's not working out for you. So how is counter steering different from normal steering? Well, in counter steering, you have to anticipate that the bike might go left when you're trying to go right, and it might go right when you're trying to go left. That's the only difference, is that you just have to anticipate one thing, and it's that it might turn the wrong way, whichever way you turn. Rule number one for buying an electric bike or an electric unicycle or even a motorcycle is that when you're making one turn, you have to anticipate that it might gradually, slightly turn the other way just as much. And if you don't know that and you buy one, that's on you, bro. Should have watched my video sooner, bro. So to re-emphasize, counter steering involves turning the motorcycle with the handlebars. So I will describe it to you. It involves turning the motorcycle with the handlebars. But when you turn the motorcycle with the handlebars, you have to lean. You know, you just kind of have to, like if it's like an airplane, you know, the airplane leans while it turns. So to turn the motorcycle with the handlebars, you're not only turning, but you're also leaning, kind of like a ballerina. So again, there is a point when the torque produced from the centripetal force will topple the motorcycle. So I'll say it again, there's a point when the torque produced from the centripetal force will topple the motorcycle. There's a point when the torque produced from the centripetal force will topple the motorcycle. Try to say it. There's a point when I already forgot it. In better words, you must adjust the angle of the handlebars so that it is suited for the no slip condition. So as far as counter steering goes, you must adjust the angle of the handlebars. So it's not just this, it's also that. But it also involves shifting your body weight, and that's like knowing where your head is. So you don't want to slip back too far. You have to kind of shift your body weight as you're turning, and that is a really important part of doing the turn on the EUC. So from the centripetal force, there will be a certain amount of instability, and you have to anticipate that. You have to anticipate how you're going to react to that, how you're going to lean your handlebars to prepare for that when you are riding an electric bike. Electric bike, safety. If you have an electric bike, you should be watching this video. If you ride a skateboard, you should be watching this video. If you like anything